intakes,
our new airflow.
do aftermarket intakes actually still work? Especially for newer cars. Well, I have been building the BMW F30 320 for a while now, and I decided to get some aftermarket intakes for the car. And instead of just having a video where I put in an aftermarket intake, I decided I should talk about if they still work, and if they still work most importantly for newer cars that have a much more enhanced cooling system, because the whole thing for new cars is to be more efficient. So how do aftermarket intakes still come in?
This is our OEM air box. The only points air gets into the air box to the engine bay is right here, and air goes from here into the engine bay with your mass effluent sensor here that reads how much air is coming in and going into the engine bay.
So one thing I forgot to mention there is this tool here, this one. This is what the OEM air intake is attached to. In fact, it's attached right here. And if you stay to the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly where this fits into in the car. The whole point of showing you this is to indicate how far cars have come to helping channel air, especially cold air, into the engine. It's not as it once used to be. See, in the mid-70s, cars came with something called a thermostatic air regulator. Or I think that's what it's called. Its job was to regulate how much cold or hot air came into the engine. On cold days, the car will try to channel in hotter air, and on warmer days, it will sample for colder air. That all went away with emissions, more advancement in fuel injections, and all that fun stuff that made cars more efficient. Well, see, now there was a problem. Cars weren't able to track how much cool air was getting into the engine.
This is all designed, calculated by experts to ensure the most amount of air that the engine needs is going in, and it's calculated to adjust for any differences in air pressure, or if the engine needs more air to run a lot better. It just ensures the amount of air coming in is enough for the engine. Triggers an engine light. If something is wrong, if the engine is running too lean or too rich, this will trigger that, letting you know something is wrong. Within our air box, you do have this paper filter that does help you pretty much to filter any air coming in. This is quite sad because this is pretty new. I will probably keep this. But yeah, this filter sits here to filter any air coming into the engine through here.
All we get now is a map that only tracks that a car is getting enough air or not enough air depending on the situation. Ever have a code where your car is running lean or too rich? That's your math working.
Our new cold air intake. Now, a lot of people disagree with this. I don't know. I think that you have the opportunity for your car to be able to take in a lot more cold air with this, being as it's placed a little bit farther away from the engine. A lot less restriction, so you can take in a lot more air if you decide to do mods to the engine. And it's overall better because you don't have to keep changing air filters every once in a while. This, you can just wash it to keep it clean, so you don't have to spend all that money to get your car running right all the time.
Now fast forward to the late 80s, where Canon engineering came in to save the day with the first cold air intake tube that was released to the general public. Cold air intakes are mainly aimed at three key things: to increase the flow of cold air into the engine because cold air is denser and thus would help make more power, to also last longer because the filters on cold air intake are reusable and can be washed, and the third and most important thing is to make that sweet induction noise that we all know and love. But separate the nice induction noise and the reusability of the filter, it comes down to one thing: shuffling cold air into the engine. And that's why I feel this answer might be a bit flawed in newer cars.
This is from MST, very reputable. This costs about $600. The MAF mounts here to be able to measure the air intake like in our OEM. What I'm going to do now is transfer the MAF from our original MAF, from our original air box onto this one, and get this mounted in the car.
So with the event of emissions and the whole need to make cars more fuel efficient and less harmful to the environment, car manufacturers have targeted one thing: how can we make cars more efficient, faster? If you're buying a cold air intake today to aid in your speed, chances are you're mainly going to only gain 20 to 30 horsepower. If you're buying it for your car to run a lot better because of the advantage of the cold air it sucks in, chances are you're not going to do a lot better than your regular intake box. Case in point in my F30 where the intake box is located and how it channels air from the outside. I'd urge you to take a look at your vehicle today, take a look at how it sucks air, the path through which it sucks air, and figure out what your advantages are in buying a cold air intake. Is it worth that extra induction noise?
So I did promise I was going to show you guys where this went. Unfortunately, it's been snowing. March still snowing, but we have to do this today. So this actually feeds in. This actually feeds in somewhere in here. That's directly flowing to the vent out here. So it does a better job of sucking cold air through the passageway here than this aftermarket intake will probably do. Left this exposed just for a little bit. I will be putting the cover in a few days. I just like the sound, and that's basically what this is for, the sound. That's all I have it for. I don't think it makes any power gains or any power differences, so it's just for aesthetics and the sound, and it's pleasing to look at. But besides that, this is all. Thank you all for watching. Cheers.